so I will officially call the Joint Powers Board special meeting to order. For those of you who are watching, board agenda packets are available at either board's website. You can go to either Virginia Public Schools or Eveleth Gilbert Public Schools, and the agendas and agenda packets are available. At this point, we will all rise and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, I will be taking a roll call of each of the Joint Powers Board members present. Director Anderson. Director Anderson. Murray.
Present. I got to push that microphone.
Thank you. Director Sather.
Present.
Director Schoberg.
Here.
Director Lodiger.
Here.
And Director Reardon standing in for Director Mannion.
Here.
And I, obviously, Director Sundquist, am present. Next on the agenda, I would invite a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
I've got a motion from Director Reardon. Support?
By Director Lodiger.
Any further discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Do we have to do a roll call for that?
Yes.
No,
Yes, you do.
don't believe for that. Not for the consent.
I don't think so either, but Director or Noel or Jeff?
As long as the board agrees on those types of votes, you don't have to. Any type of action, you would have to.
Okay. Any requests from any other board members that we take a roll call vote on approval of the agenda?
No need.
Okay, so we'll go ahead with all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carried. The next item on the agenda is approval of the treasurer's report. Director Anderson, do you want to go over that?
I did talk to Spencer today. The big thing is, there's this month is not until it's more of an estimate, he did say. But there are 2 pages. There is one for March, there is one for April. The one thing that he wanted to make sure of, I believe, is that in regards to the interest gained, we are still ahead of what we projected, even though some people believe differently. We are ahead in the interest from the bond sale. If I'm correct, Spencer.
Yes, I am here too. Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Yeah, right now we're at about 2.4 million in interest revenue so far. The original projection when we did the bond sale was just over 4 million for the total time frame. So we're still sitting in a good spot. I think last time Ryan came up from Ellers and talked about kind of where we're at, he was still very confident that we would make it over that 4 million. Now, obviously, things have changed since then, but I think he was confident that we were going to be over that enough that even with things changing here, we should be good. And we can invite Ryan to come back quarterly if we want, or whenever we want him to come up and kind of go over all the long-term investments if the board would like.
thank you. Did either you, Spencer, or Murray, either one of you have anything else to add?
Not really.
Nope, just we'll
Okay.
start seeing expenditures ramp up here as construction gets started.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I'll move.
Second.
Was that Director Lotiger?
Director Sather.
Zather, do I have support?
Director Schoberg, seconds.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, this can be a roll call vote. Or I guess I don't know if we should do a roll call vote or if we can just go ahead and proceed on as usual.
To be safe, let's do a roll call vote.
You
Okay.
could do a voice.
So let's do a roll call vote. Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sather?
Aye.
Director Schoberg?
Aye.
Director Lotiger?
Aye.
Director Reardon?
Aye.
And Stacy is an aye as well. Motion passes. Next is the approval of the minutes from the meeting on March 30th, 2020. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Director
Second.
Lotiger will support.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under new business, item A, we have approved the bid pack number 1 for the elementary. Got a lot of faces on my screen. I don't know who's going to take this.
Do you guys want?
Pete, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jeff.
Do you want me to share, Pete, or are you gonna?
No, I'll share if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Noel?
All right, so this is Pete Avenin from Kraus Anderson. I'm the project manager on the Eveleth Gilbert Elementary School. Hope you all are doing good tonight. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So first off, I'd just like to say that we had a lot of good participation from bidders in bid package number 1 for the Eveleth Gilbert Elementary School. And this bid package covers the site civil work and the structural work to the building. So your concrete and structural steel, masonry. We had a lot of local bidders, and we actually have quite a few local recommendations, which we'll get to shortly. So we'll start off with the agenda, our normal section 1 estimating process to see where we're at today and where we're moving forward in the future. And section 2 will cover the meat and potatoes of the presentation here, the bid package number 1, and review those bids. And then section 3 will wrap it up with a recap and closing thoughts. Any questions on the agenda? All right, moving right into section 1, estimating bidding process. I think most of you have seen this before, so I'll go really quick. We have multiple phases during the estimating process, and right now we are in phase 4 bid award with bid package number 1 of 2. And again, this just reiterates where we've come so far up to date and where we're at today in bidding phase for bid pack number 1 of 2. So we'll touch real quick on the milestone schedule. We've gone through on the elementary, the SD, the DD estimate, and now tonight we're going through bid package number 1. And the high school team will follow up after me here with the DD estimate review, and they'll be moving into bid pack 1 June, July. Section 2, bid package number 1, bids review. So I'm going to zoom in here and bear with me as I might have to slide the screen around. If you can't see anything, just let me know and I can come back to it. So you've all had a chance to review this from the packet that Jeff sent over last week, and I'll get right into it with our work scope numbers here, work scope description, what work they're going to do, and the low bidder. So starting out with work scope 1A, construction testing and inspections. Our low responsible bidder currently is Northeast Technical Services, also known as NTS, out of Virginia. There's that local bidder. We did have a couple other bids. As you see here, American Engineering Testing did withdraw their bid of $40,000 due to not including their allowance in their bid. And Braun Intertech sent in a late bid of $72,809, which we did not consider due to the late arrival of that bid. So again, it's Northeast Technical Services at the low bid of $69,390. Next work scope, 1G, construction layout engineering, also known as surveying. So this will be our building surveying on the project, and that is Benchmark Engineering. No special remarks to go over there. Work scope 3A, concrete, was TNT Aggregates, also known as Hammerland, out of Grand Rapids, with a low bid of $973,800. And we have no special remarks for that. Work scope 3B, structural precast, hollow core planks, was Wells Concrete out of Albany, with a low bid of $637,100. Do have a remark over here for that. We did receive another bid from Moline, but it was a late bid that was mailed to the district. It didn't arrive on time, so could not reconsider that. Back over here. Work scope 3C, architectural precast. That's our precast walls around the gym. And that was also Wells Concrete out of Albany, of $462,900. And we don't have any special remarks for that one. Moving on to work scope 4A, masonry, Lohi and Kibble masonry out of Hibbing. The low bid of $195,065. Moving on to work scope 5A, and I'll talk both these. 5A, structural steel material supply only, and 5D as in Delta, miscellaneous metals material supply. We did receive a bid from Thornbeck out of Forest Lake, and I'm going to jump to another slide here to explain this one a little bit further. So Thornbeck Steel had submitted a bid of $719,113 with zero tax, which they were supposed to include tax in their base bid. So if you look over at the next bidder, True North, their base bid amount was $792, and then they break out what their material costs and what their tax. So Thornbeck on their base bid had $719 and zero for tax. We did talk to Thornbeck, and after some back and forth conversations, they were not willing to accept the tax deduction from their base bid of $719. Therefore, we're moving on to recommending True North Steel for the structural steel price. Bear with me here. And True North Steel was the only bidder in the miscellaneous metals. So we're recommending the 5A and 5D combined material only with True North of $963,710. Now just a little recap note on that. This combined price is $14,863 higher than accepting the structural steel and miscellaneous metals separately. Any questions so far?
I do have just one quick question. This is Director Sundquist. Is it unusual, I'm looking at 1A, the estimate is about $123,000 and the base or the bid was 69. That just seems like a lot of difference to someone that's not familiar with this. Is that unusual or is that normal?
That can happen, especially in the construction testing and inspections work scope.
Okay.
Some of it is unknown during the estimating process, and can't always nail down exactly how much is going to be needed until we get those bid documents out. But no, that was a really good question.
Okay, thank you.
This is Gallagher. Just so you know, when we set up the original referendum budgets, we usually figure 1% of the construction, just so we know that we have enough for geotechnical reporting and all the testing. So things came in for that geotechnical and that initial testing for the site. We paid for that out of soft costs. So that's another reason why we didn't spend quite as much for it onto this.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
And this is Director Schoberg. I do have, along the same lines, the surveying estimate's 1,000 and the low base bid is 8,500. I mean, 8.5 times, that seems way off.
Pete, why don't you cover your remarks item there to explain that one?
Yeah, so if you look right here where my cursor is, this is the remarks for the surveying. Sorry, I skipped over that. Same type of deal where we do a percentage of the total referendum budget for multiple items lumped in a line item. So in this case, the $1,000 that you saw that was left over was the estimate amount left over after the phase 1 and 2 environmental assessments were taken care of out of the soft costs. And so that $1,000 was what was left out of that pot of money for surveying and environmental assessments.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of times, just so everyone understands, a phase 1, you do on the property, and it's kind of a historical check of what's gone on in the site. And once it was determined that the city of Eveleth had a dump on the elementary school property that you purchased, that triggered a phase 2, and we didn't know we were going to have that phase 2 where they actually have to go out and do the sampling and dig the area up to ensure that you don't have those pollutants that you're buying with the property. So that phase 2 is what took a lot of that budget.
Thank you. Any other questions from any other board members? Okay, I think we're set to move forward.
Okay, thanks, Stacy. Work scope 5B, structural steel erection. It's $475,980 from Raditich Incorporated out of Hibbing. Moving on to work scope 31A, site clearing and earthwork, which was our largest work scope package and bid package number 1. And that went to KGM Contractors out of Angora at the $4,057,000. Work scope 32A, asphalt paving, $318,000 from Misabi Bituminous out of Gilbert, Minnesota. Last but not least, work scope 32D as in Delta, fencing, $65,800 from Keller Fence North out of Grand Rapids. Any other questions on this worksheet before we move on?
It's great to see a lot of local businesses.
Yes, definitely. We were very pleased with the turnout of local bidders, for sure. Anything else? Okay. So we'll move on to, this is the official recommendation letter that we're seeking approval for tonight on the bid package 1 for the elementary school. And as we scroll down here, it's just a recap of the estimate sheet that we just covered with each contractor and which work scope they're in, description of work, and their base bid amount. And that all adds up to the $8.23 million down here, which also matches our total right here. Now in this bid package number 1, we didn't have any alternates. So there's nothing to review there or recommend for alternates. Just a heads up, in bid package number 2 for this job, there will be alternates, and we'll cover those, and it'll be the same thing. We'll have the alternate number, what work scope and contractor, and their bid amount and what we're going to recommend for alternates. And then we'll come up with a new total. Again, there is no alternates in bid package number 1.
All right, thank you. At this time, then I will seek a motion to approve bid pack number 1.
So moved.
So we'll move by Director Schoberg. Do I have support?
Support.
Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Is that support by Director Reardon or Director Anderson?
Go ahead with Director Anderson.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none at this time, we will take a roll call vote. Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Schoberg?
Aye.
Director Lotiger?
Aye.
Director Sather?
Aye.
Director Reardon?
Aye.
And Director Sundquist is an aye as well. Motion passes. New business agenda item B is approve the estimate for Rock Ridge High School, and I will turn this over now.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Paul Knoll take the reins.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. Paul Knoll speaking from Cross Anderson Construction Company, project manager for the high school project. I'm here to present the findings of the design development level estimate for the Rock Ridge Career Academy High School project. All right, you should be able to see my screen too, and let me know if you cannot. All right, similar 3 sections to what Pete just covered. We'll do a really quick recap on where we're at in the process. We'll go through the findings of the estimate and the results, and then we'll have an opportunity for any questions. And by all means, feel free to interrupt at any time and ask any questions you might have. So we'll jump right into it. Just a really quick recap on where we're at. Again, with the high school project, we are into the pre-construction phase, moving rapidly towards a bid and award. Throughout this process, we have already completed the referendum budgeting order of magnitude. We've already had a presentation back in January on schematic design level estimate, and we are now here in the design development estimate phase. Hopefully the intention of being able to perform a real quick ready check estimate and then go right into the bid package number 1, which will cover a very similar scope that the elementary school had as well. So again, the high school activities are shown down here in the red. The target intention we would have our next activity to be bid pack number 1, and that would be occurring in early June. So just a couple weeks away from that, pending approval of the DD estimate and approval to proceed on tonight. All Right, and the last note on section 1 here, there have been about a month of estimating activities that have gone into formulating this number here. We've had a lot of really fantastic and collaborative discussion back and forth between the design team. I would say there's not a day that goes by that we don't have an opportunity to either speak with them or have a conference call or at least exchange emails. So a lot of different back and forth. Team was fantastic between the Cunningham Group side of things, the KA side of things, and of course DSGW working alongside as well, and all of the engineers. And throughout the course of this estimate as well, we've received fantastic contractor input as well, where we've been asking some of the local contractors to aid us in the pricing as well. So between the inputs of construction manager, the design teams, and the local contractors, that's a little bit about how this number was developed as well. So I just wanted to share that a little bit too. All right. So the couple of questions, of course, that you guys may be holding in your minds here. What's the alignment look like between the design development level design and that iteration of what the building and sites will look like versus the referendum budget? The second question, if these two items aren't aligned, why not? And the third question, what do we do going forward? And what are the steps we take to help align those things? So, very positive outcome of the estimating effort here when it comes to the question of, are the design and the budget currently aligned? I'm gonna use the word only here. We're only about $2.4 million in terms of alignment that is required here. Normally a large sum of money, but on the scale of dealing with a budget the size of $92 million, this only represents about 2.6% of the total, which is a 100% acceptable and I would say even better than expected result and place to be at the design development level phase. The final construction documents, of course, are not done quite yet. There's still an opportunity to affect change. Sorry, did someone have a comment there? Sounds like no. Okay, I'll keep going. There's still an opportunity to affect change, and there is still absolutely the time and ability to be able to close this gap with the intention of being able to publish a set of construction documents that meet the expectations and the responsibility of the referendum budget here. But we were very excited and very optimistic about this result. So almost couldn't have gotten better news than this, which is fantastic. And we just included, just to help back up some of those assertions, this reference chart here. At the SD phase, we were at about a 6.5% deviation, and that has now reduced down to 2.5%. And once we have this last little round of some value management and some back and forth with the design team, we'll be able to, I would say, very confidently close that last little gap here. And then reference as well, at the same point in time, the elementary school was at about a 5.5% deviation during its design development level estimate. So,
this is Matt Schoberg. Has that been reduced since the bid package 1 came in 1.9 under what it was budgeted to come in at?
No, this 5.4%, which I believe you're referencing here.
Yes.
Has not been updated. This was the actual number that was presented at the DD estimate time frame, not taking into account what bid results were going forward.
And this is Patrick Gallagher. The reason we don't adjust that yet is we only have a small portion of the work scopes in bid pack number 1. Still have quite a few in bid pack 2, so we don't adjust that.
Does that answer your question, Director Schoberg?
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, I will keep moving here. So to develop the number, I'm just going to flip back one slide real quick. To develop this $2.4 million alignment, of course, you might be asking, well, what numbers are you using? You have seen this chart before in its various iterations throughout the estimating process. The number that we're comparing against right now is the $92 million hard costs construction budget for the line number 2 Career Academy High School project. And our estimate came in at $94.4 million. So the difference between these two numbers is the $2.4 million. Got Mr. B positive in there, since this is a great result here. And just to show that, I'm going to flip back one more slide again, just to show this $94.4 million. Here is the $94.4 million as the grand total. I don't want to get way deep dive into the numbers, but these are the various large components of your high school project. The first 3 lines, 1A, 1B, and 1C, represent the various site constructions consisting of the athletic fields, that's O1B, the stadium area, which is O1C, and the building, its footprint, and its parking lots. And that is the site of O1A. So first 3 items, those are all site. Lines number 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the major parts of the building. So we've got basically the general building space and kind of the academic areas. And then broken out separately, we have the gymnasium and fitness center rooms, as well as their corresponding locker rooms. We've got broken out the competition pool and its associated locker rooms. And we've got the performing arts center broken out. So first 3 items, site. Next 4 items, the building. And then finally, the contingency, as well as the general conditions costs, which are the costs that need to occur in order to facilitate the construction of the building. So all of those components added together is how you get the 94.4. And when we were looking at the various costs, like the ones you see of the building here within the red box, they are well within the limits of reason of what we would expect to see for a building of this type. And just on the side note too of this square footage, the building is also appropriately sized for the referendum programming that was submitted originally. So very, very confident, very happy about this number here. And that is how we get to the 94.4 and the delta of 2.4.
So does that number include bathrooms and concession stands at the stadium?
Yes. So this number of 94.4 here does include the bathroom and concession stand building as it's drawn on the civil drawings right now at the stadium, as well as a very similarly sized, if not identically sized, bathroom and concessions building at the athletics fields area. Both of those 2 buildings are included in this number as it stands right now.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Does that include the team rooms at the stadium?
This number does not include team rooms beneath the grandstand areas or in a separate building at the stadium area. Those would not be included, and those did not appear on the design development level drawings.
Is Noel on this call or Jeff? Can you speak to why that is? It sounds like there was consensus that staff felt those weren't necessary. If you can use the the locker rooms at the high school or possibly the 1404 building?
This is Noel, and yes, Director Lottinger, you are right. People on the advisory committee, I'm not going to say everyone because that's not true, but if we acquire the 1404 building, which is right across the road, that to most people made sense. If we're going to put team rooms or locker rooms or something like that, that made more sense to put them there and to put something underneath the football stadium because it's just going to get a lot more use out of the 1404 building. And so that's our current thinking. As far as if we can, we're looking at the 1404 building for football. Absolute worst case scenario, if you're a football player, you have to jog 150 yards to the high school to use the locker rooms in the high school.
Thank you for addressing that.
Excellent. I will move on here. So one of the next items or tasks or strategies to aid in the bidding process is to develop a list of bidding alternates. These items in general are ad alternates and in many cases kind of optional upgrades, items that would mostly improve slightly the aesthetics or slightly the function of a couple of spaces. The idea is that, or the strategy is that the alternates would be specifically listed within the bidding documents to be bid within a competitive environment, and that we would have the verbiage included, much like the elementary school, so that a total combination of any bidder's bid, depending on the way that they've priced their alternates, will be used to determine the contract award, which means that they can't get out of control on the pricing because they may outprice themselves. So these are a couple of items here that we've started on a preliminary list. These are items and upgrades that are not currently within this $94.4 million. And they are listed here. And of course, we've had a couple of findings from the design development estimate, things that in both our opinions and the design team's opinions in many cases as well, looked slightly out of place compared to past historical costs and what we were expecting to see. So we've identified a couple of areas that we are actively working on, and the intention is that each of these items here represents an opportunity to help lower this number of $94.4 million. These will help lower the estimated costs by having very, very minimal impacts to both the function and the aesthetics of the building. And we have been working very closely with Cunningham and DSGW on the design side, as well as their consulting engineers, to work through each one of these items that have only been recently identified. So we've only had a couple of days at this point to work through these. But this is a component of kind of the way forward. These are items right off the bat that we can take a look at and very easily start to chip away at that $2.4 million delta that we're seeing right now. So we're very encouraged to have a list this long at least, and these items represent some pretty high dollar values once you multiply them by the scope of a building that is this large. So definitely working on these going forward here. All right. So just to recap some of those items there, are the design and budget in alignment? Very close, very positive result here. Definitely within our expectations of where we would be at this point in the process. couple reasons on why. Again, still working on some management of some existing site conditions with these couple of items we have listed here. And of course, at the scale of a DE estimate, we still do not have every single specification and every single detail out yet. So there are still some assumption type items that are working on being clarified. And that's another item that we've had an opportunity to have a lot of back and forth with the design team here on making suggestions and making optimizations and just having a really good open team dialogue about what some options are going forward to help clarify these items here. The local contractor participation too is really critical there because they come in with their expert opinions as well. And between the lens of the design team, ourselves at KA, contractor perspective, we get an opportunity to have some really good team discussion about those items. And the last there, of course, what do we do going next? Like I just covered in the previous slide there, we'll be looking at those value management opportunities, kind of low-hanging fruit to lessen that delta right off the bat. And then going forward, we feel that there don't need to be very significant scope alterations to the building at this point. We'll work through these value management items and then develop a strong list of bidding, add alternates, and upgrades. And again, what that does is it lets the district have a flexibility come bid day where you more or less will for sure have a design iteration that meets the expectations of the budget and hopefully comes in a little bit under budget so that you can really easily have a prioritization discussion, pick the add alternates that are going to work best for you, and then get them into the project by accepting them through the bid process because they've already been competitively bid. So that's the idea again behind those alternates there. Okay, so kind of closing thoughts from our standpoint here. We are continuing to work with the design team to refine and assess those estimates. Those ongoing conversations are occurring every single day. Continuing to work on those add alternates as we screen through all the items of the estimate. Working through those couple of last specifications and details going forward. And then just working very closely with the design team to help finalize that intent of your new building. All, of course, with the input and check-in of your advisory team. And then, of course, your guys' approval formally here at the end here. So I just want to say, just after pouring through a single sheet of the 500 drawings and the 1,000 pages specifications, I guess I can personally say with my own testifying here, this is definitely a one-of-a-kind building. It's got some really awesome state-of-the-art features. It's sustainable. It is unique. I haven't really seen a school quite like this one before, which is really refreshing to see too. And these last two items kind of go hand in hand here between making cost-effective decisions and having a flexible and very efficient design. Your architects, designers, and engineers have done you a fantastic service by taking the comments from the schematic design phase and listening to those comments and making adjustments, as well as incorporating some great ideas of their own, which helped lower that delta from, I think, 6.5% down to 2.5%. And then even in this design, still putting in accent pieces and having, those little moments throughout the building that create really phenomenal spaces to be in, but for a really cost-effective and efficient way, not going overboard, not being extravagant, not being lavish. So this really is going to be an amazing school project, and we're really excited to hopefully move forward pending the approval of this estimate here and on to production of bid pack number 1 construction documents. Now, open it up up and see if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask us about this process.
Do any of the board members have any questions? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the DD estimate for the Rock Ridge High School.
So
I will
moved.
make that motion. Support then.
So I have a motion by Director Reardon and support by Director Lotiger. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any further discussion?
I'm
Hearing none.
excited for it.
Oh, I am too. And Paul, your excitement too in presenting everything, I think is contagious. So thank you for that.
That's awesome. Fantastic.
We will do a roll call vote, and I will start again with Director Anderson,
Aye.
Director Lotiger,
Aye.
Director Schoberg,
Yes.
Director Reardon,
Yes.
and Director Sundquist is a yes. Just making sure I didn't miss anybody. Director Sather?
Director Sather.
Was that?
Director, yes.
Yes, a yes from Director Sather. So it's all ayes, no opposition, the motion passes. Thank you, Paul. The next item on our agenda is C, approve envelope commissioning contract.
Pat, are you gonna do this one?
I think you're gonna pull up those slides, correct?
Yeah, I think it might be me again. All right. Double better. Take a drink of water here.
I'm not gonna give you a break.
All right, this one is, I just want to make sure I'm unmuted here. Yep, okay, good.
You're there.
All right, this presentation is a little bit shorter. We just have one slide on this. The topic here is the building envelope and its commissioning. Just really quick, just to define building envelope, kind of the six-sided enclosure of the actual structure of the high school and the elementary school and the second elementary school. So all four walls plus the roof, kind of floor level where it interfaces with the ground. That's what our envelope is. And then commissioning, kind of the double, triple, quadruple check on the design side of the detailing, on the actual construction implementation, and the verification of the installation by the contractors, and then in kind of the post-construction, the testing, the training, and the verification that things have been constructed the way that they were supposed to have been. So I included a couple bullet points here about why you would utilize a service like this. It's a little bit different from the state of Minnesota code required mechanical and electrical commissioning that's been previously approved on the project. This is a separate company who is more of an architectural forensics type specialty as opposed to a mechanical or electrical engineering firm. So very different types of companies that do this. And why would we utilize someone like them? This is what this company does, is kind of architectural envelope, design, detailing, writing state requirements for various states, and doing the forensic investigation. So these people do envelopes, and the company's name is Intertech with a K.
Located out of where?
Sorry, go ahead.
Where are they located?
Yeah, so their nearest office is in Wisconsin, I believe. Milwaukee is what I want to say. Intertech is part of a larger company called ATI, I believe, which is Architectural Testing Inc., if I'm not mistaken. And I believe they also have a testing lab in the Foley, Minnesota area.
So they have local ties also.
Yeah, they have a
Somewhat.
Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
A little more distant though. I mean, they are,
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, so the second important item here is that the designs of these buildings are dependent on achieving a very, very tight envelope that has a very low level of air infiltration. And the reason that that's important is because the mechanical systems were sized to specifically accommodate this low level of air infiltration and energy loss through the walls bleeding air, through the walls in the air, or excuse me, through the walls in the roof, bleeding out air. And in many cases, there were certain systems like perimeter, fin tube radiation, for example, that were able to be eliminated because of such a tight envelope that is being asked for here. So those two bullet points, number 2 and 3, go very close together, where there's a very high performance envelope requirement, and in turn, it's downsized the mechanical systems. Why that's important is because if the envelope does not perform the way that it is very intensely designed to, there could be some issues that come up later on. So it's very important that the design detailing, the actual implementation through very close testing, and then the final checkout would be completed by this company in order to verify that. And it's kind of a unique element to these projects.
And sometimes, just to interrupt, sorry, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
Gallagher. Sometimes you'll have people that are concerned when we talk about having that tight of an envelope system. Well, are we going to have quality air inside the building? And that is definitely a part of mechanical systems nowadays, that they are designed to bring in that fresh air, to temper that fresh air, whether it be heating or humidification, and basically filter it. It's become even more of an issue now with the whole COVID situation. Now, are you able to filter out impurities and even to the point of a virus? Those types of things are capabilities that can be done through these mechanical systems. So things are way different than they used to be. We tighten up the outside, we close up the windows, and then we handle all the air that is coming in and prepare that as fresh, healthy air for the students that enters those classrooms.
Great. Okay, thanks for sharing that, Patrick. Next bullet point here, a double check on contractor installation, and I'd almost say a quadruple check because our superintendent and we will certainly be watching. The design team is certainly going to be watching. The building officials are going to be watching, but this company will be doing a much more intensive level of testing and creating mock-ups to make sure that small scales of the skin assemblies of the building are achievable, applied across the kind of the large scale of the entire building. So they'd be doing a much deeper dive on just specifically the envelope. And they would also have a design involvement, much like mechanical and electrical commissioning, where they'll be reviewing the product selections and the detailing of the envelope before things even get out to the field, so that really high level items could be caught and corrected prior to bidding to reduce change orders or eliminate. And number 2, to make sure that this really intensive envelope requirement and air infiltration rate is actually able to be met. So just really quickly to go over the components of the grand total here, 224,300 is the number that we're talking about. This would be for the high school, elementary number 1, and elementary number 2. So this would encompass all 3 major buildings of the referendum, and it would include 9 phase services on each. Construction phase services, actually checking things out in the field, as well as post-construction testing and final validation and training. So those 3 items on each one of those projects, those all total up to 181 out of the 224. And then under the additional services section here, we've gotten with the design team and reviewed to what extent a couple of these add-on items might be of value. And these are the items that we've come up for recommendations. The first one here is to actually do some mock-up testing and building those small-scale versions, either on the building or aside from the building, and doing those in-depth tests for both air and water infiltration. There would be 2 of those total, one for the high school, one for the elementary school, at $3,400 a piece. The infrared scanning, we are not recommending at all. And so we've just lined those out. At the end, once the full building is constructed, the recommendation of a full building air test, 1 per each school. So that's 1, 2, 3 times 12,000 gives you your total of 36. So if you add up the 3 highlighted numbers, that's how you get to the grand total. And that would be what this company's scope of involvement would be, as well as what their total cost and value provided to the project would be. Patrick, did I miss anything that you might want to sweep up there?
Just when we mentioned we didn't recommend the infrared scanning. Infrared scanning, they basically scan your windows and make sure that you have everything installed correctly. But because we're already paying them to be involved in the design, paying them to supervise a lot of, or double check, I guess, our installation of the windows and to make sure we have the glass facing the right way, because that does make a difference in the modern glazings that they put on. We just feel that we can save that money and use it elsewhere in the project. So if you're wondering why we didn't recommend that, that's the only reason.
Okay, excellent. Good point, Patrick. Yes, we always try to minimize needing to do anything excessive or something that's going to be redundant, because every dollar we're totally aware that can be saved here can be applied towards something else on the project to get you more and more value. So
when you have a state-of-the-art system like this, where we have a very tight envelope and a very modern mechanical system, it's good to bring these experts to make sure the one is going to support the other. This extra scrutiny, if we didn't think it was worth it, we wouldn't recommend it, but this is definitely a good due diligence on your tax dollars to make sure these systems are going to be sized correctly for this building envelope. So, any questions?
Doesn't sound like there are any.
Okay, we are looking for approval to bring these folks on. We'd like to get them involved as soon as possible to go through these current designs that we had just talked about a few minutes ago.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the envelope commissioning contract?
So moved.
So moved by Director Anderson, support.
Support.
I think it was Director Reardon by a hair. Any further discussion? Once again, we will do a roll call vote. Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Schoberg?
Aye.
Director Sather?
Aye.
Director Reardon?
Aye.
Director Lotiger?
Aye.
And Director Sundquist is an aye as well. Agenda item D is presentation on Career Academy plan.
Michelle, you're on mute.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you tonight. I have to warn you, I'm having a sketchy internet connection and fail, so if things start to get a little wonky, I may just switch to voice only. But first of all, before I get into this plan to getting students and teachers engaged in the construction project, I just wanted to take a second to thank you for this opportunity. I haven't seen you all in one place since I started in this position in January, and I'm so thrilled and excited to be working on this, and particularly with this first project to really engage from a career exploration standpoint with the construction of the new schools. It's really, really an exciting time. So thank you very much. I believe in your packets you were provided a draft plan that has been put together in collaboration with folks over at Crouse Anderson. And does everybody have that? Do I need to pull that up on the screen? I don't know who's driving the bus here.
I can pull it up if you want to.
Oh, that'd be great, Jeff. Thank you very much. Anyway, so as Jeff pulls that up, this is really a unique opportunity to dip our first toe in the career pathway pond. That's really how I look at it. It's a terrific opportunity to test some experiential learning opportunities for students, give them a bunch of different ways to explore the construction industry, but also to connect construction industry professionals with teachers as they start to revamp their curriculum, develop more applied lesson plans, student-led projects, that sort of thing. So here on the screen, you've got the plan, and you have that all as part of your packet. When asked to put this plan together, I really wanted to be purposeful and intentional and kind of draw everything together so everybody understood what the purpose of this was here. And so you've got those three first purpose statements there. You know, construction is a very unique industry. I'm certain that it's going to factor into the new high school. You know, it's one of those industries, kind of like healthcare, that unless you sit and really think about it, you don't realize how big of an industry it is. Like healthcare, you think doctors and nurses, and that's got to be it. We all know better, of course. Construction is right up there. In fact, it's one of 3 of the 81 total identified career pathways that has over 30 different occupations associated with it. So it's everything from the skilled trades, which we all typically think of your carpenters and plumbers and electricians. There's actually 15 different craft trades in the construction industry, but also to the people on the call here today, your project managers, your interior designers, your architects, surveyors. It's really, really a tremendous industry. And so this build gives us a really, really unique opportunity to try out some new ways of engaging students with the business community, but also to really help everybody in the school system understand the opportunities, career opportunities within the construction industry. You know, construction represents just about 10% of all the jobs in our region. That's over 7,000 jobs, or nearly 7,000 jobs in our region. And it also pays about 47% higher than your average occupation in our region. So this is really, really a great opportunity to do a deep dive in this and start to learn more. And hopefully introduce more students to opportunities within construction who might not otherwise have considered these fields. So let's jump into the plan. Jeff, if you can scroll down for me a little bit, just a little bit on who is involved. The biggest thing here is how to capture opportunities that we can plug students and teachers into. And so go up to the top of page 2 there. So I've actually created an online survey that has been seen by Crouse Anderson folks to identify professionals involved with the build who are willing to work with the teachers or students in the number of ways that we'll talk about here in a minute. And so you can check out that survey yourself by clicking the link in that document. The bullets following is just kind of a synopsis of the information that I'll be collecting. The idea here is to get this survey out to firms who are going to be working on the project. As you know, this type of engagement is one of the requirements of these bid packages, and I just think that this is, I've never heard of this being done before, and I'm really, really thrilled that this is part of the process so early on. So we'll be working on gathering information about specific professionals working on the project that are willing to do work with teachers and students in the ways that we'll talk about in a minute. Number 2, we'll be identifying teachers and staff who would like to work with professionals who are interested in engaging with this project in that way. This is more than just career and tech ed teachers. This could be English teachers, it could be math teachers, it could be marketing, business class teachers. We'll find ways of helping them think about construction as a way of making their curriculum a little bit more applied. And then we will be working on a way to identify students who would be best suited to connect to these opportunities. And again, it's got to be just beyond the career and tech ed students. We really want to capture a wide number of students with different aspirations and different goals, even kids that don't know what they're doing yet, which is most of them so far. So we'll be working on ways of putting this all together over the summer. So Jeff, if you want to scroll down, we've outlined 8 different activities for professionals engaged in the construction to get connected with this new school. You'll see with all of them, they include goal statements, typical duration, these are estimates, and an estimated time frame to start these activities. This is kind of up in the air right now, depending on what next year looks like. But it was important, I felt, to really be clear about the goals for each one of these activities, because in order to volunteer, you really need to know what you're signing up for. And so these are just some statements related to each one of these activities. These goal statements were included in the survey to make sure that folks knew what they were signing up for. And then the implementation steps. Each one of these activities has a series of implementation steps, and those folks responsible, Jeff, if you want to scroll down just a little bit. So we can kind of have a checklist, so to speak, of getting this off the ground. My primary role in this is to not only identify the professionals who are willing to participate in each of these 8 activities, but really develop that infrastructure around each one to make it as easy as possible to participate. We have a lot of employers in our community who are really, really interested in engaging, and there's going to be lots of opportunities to do so, but it's really incumbent on us to make it as easy for them as possible. And so in a lot of these implementation steps, you'll see that I will be creating, for instance, the classroom speakers, presentation templates, talking points, and advice on how to prepare to speak with students. But the other important factor here with all of these activities is to have adequate pre and post activities for students so they can, first of all, be prepared to be effective participants in these activities, but also time on the back end for that reflection piece. That's a very important part of the learning process, is taking time after you've seen something or experienced something to really think about what it is that you learned, what you liked, what you didn't like. So those components will be built into each one of these things. The second activity you see here are site tours. This includes both tours of the construction site as it's going. Now, I know that particularly in the construction industry, this can get a little dicey. There's obviously health and safety concerns. So we'll be working through with Kraus and others working on the project of how to accomplish this in a safe way. But really, we want students to be able to see what a massive construction project looks like from start to finish. It's really a tremendous way to introduce not only students but teachers as well to the massive scope. I mean, you guys know this better than anybody with all of the conversations you've been having about the new building. There's a lot to it, and a lot more than most people realize. And so building in periodic site tours where students can see different phases of the build is another way to expose students to this work. But not just the construction site, but also to be able to tour the sites of the companies who are working on this. It's not only an opportunity to learn about the occupations within that particular business, but also talk to students about those employability and employee work readiness skills that we'll be focusing on, the importance of showing up on time and how you communicate and all those good things. And again, we'll set up some infrastructure around this in terms of how to prepare people who are going to be giving tours, the kinds of expectations we have of the results of the tours, or what we're trying to accomplish here. Again, the duration, the engagement start time frame or estimates at this point. But what I'd like to do is be able to set up a whole year's worth of tour opportunities that kind of follow each phase of the build, and you'll see a little bit more on that later. All right, keep scrolling. Informational interviewing. This is usually a one-on-one situation between a student and a professional that is a little bit more than just a hi, how are you? There's questions that the student thinks about ahead of time about how to prepare for the career, what sort of education and training is required, what it's like to work in the field, and it's more of an intensive learning opportunity for students to dig into specific occupations. And again, we develop the questions, help prepare those who are being interviewed so that they know what to expect in terms of the questions they'll be asked. And this could be built into any number of different classes. It could be a social studies class or an English class or a career readiness class. There's lots of ways to plug this in. And as soon as this COVID dust clears, that's one of the first things that I'll be doing is working with teachers to figure out where it makes sense to place these activities. The big vision here with the new school, of course, is to have that series of progressive experiential learning all the way through that high school experience. This is going to give us a great chance to test some of those things out and see where it makes the most sense in terms of grade level, different classes, so on and so forth. Again, thinking of when this could probably start, more likely to be next spring, but again, you know, those engagement start timeframes are really, we just have to get through this very weird period that we're in here. All right, keep going. Job shadowing, of course, this is the usually an individual student or a very small group of students, maybe 2 or 3 at the most, will take more time working with a professional on a work site in a workplace, usually for a couple of hours at a time. And it really, again, is to give more of an in-depth view to a particular occupation or a bunch of occupations. Some models will place students in a business for the whole day and they rotate around different departments and talk with different professionals. This is probably more of a 10th or 11th grade activity, maybe even a 12th grade. Again, we're still figuring out what that progression looks like. In my past life, I actually wrote a job shadowing handbook, which I'm really excited to use for this, and it's got everything in it to help prepare employers and students, help teachers think about preparing their students. There's a section in there for parents. And throughout all of this, particularly with the nature of construction and active work sites, there's going to be concerns about liability and safety. And so I'm right in the middle of research on that right now. There's some great guidance from Minnesota Department of Ed and the Department of Labor, the Department of Labor Industry. And so we can make sure that we are addressing those things like insurance coverage and all of that before we even launch some of these activities. All right, keep going. Number 5, collaborating with teachers. This is a really big one. You know, as all of you know, this new school represents a total sea change in how education is delivered. And really offering teachers professional development is going to be one of the absolute most critical things that we can do to be prepared for this. And so this will be kind of our first foray into that with a specific industry lens. And like I said before, it's beyond career and tech ed teachers. We really want to pull in a variety of different academic subjects to work with the wide breadth of people within the construction industry to figure out how their subject is applied to this industry. I'm particularly excited about this. Of course, I'll be working with Troy Caddy on collaborating with the curriculum development piece. And it's all about having industry professionals be able to vet lesson plans, talk a little bit about skills that are important to that industry and how they can be integrated into existing curriculum and new curriculum, providing ideas for student-led projects, and really how can we use construction to reframe some of the things that we've been teaching to date. Okay, keep going. Number 6, this we will be having advisory committees at a minimum for each one of the academies, perhaps more concentrated committees based on clusters. We'll be working that out this summer. But we'd like to take this opportunity, since we are working with this specific project, to identify folks in the construction industry who would be willing to serve in an advisory capacity. And again, this is working with teachers and staff on how we can make sure that we are hitting our marks in terms of the kinds of skills that we're providing students in high school to prepare for construction. All right, keep going. Number 7 is my favorite. This is the Student Communications Committee, and this was actually an idea proposed by Pat. Thank you very much, Pat. This is awesome. But the idea is to assemble a group of students who would be responsible for documenting the build process. It's not just take some pictures and throw them up on Facebook, but it's also an opportunity to learn about digital photography and videography. There currently is a digital photography class in Virginia. I've spoken with that teacher, and he's very excited about engaging with this, and we're looking for teachers, both Eveleth, Gilbert, and Virginia, from a variety of disciplines to advise this group. It's an opportunity to learn writing skills, journalism skills. They would be interviewing key personnel related to whatever it is they're documenting at the time. And they could also be interviewing people in the community that are associated with some of the more specialty aspects of the school, like the theater, or the nursing classrooms, or the makerspace. They could be out interviewing people from healthcare to talk about why it's so important that this space exists in the new school. And so, not to mention, it's also a great opportunity to document this really historic and build for posterity. Newsletters, yearbook, communicating with the public, learning how to really productively use social media to get information out there. And the best of all, it would be student-led. And that's really what we're all about with the new school, is finding out ways of putting students in a leadership position, under supervision, of course, and getting guidance. And so this is included on this particular survey to identify people associated with the build who would be willing to advise. So this is a really cool concept that I'm very excited about. We do have some baseline pictures. One of the comments was they've started the site clearing already. We are very fortunate to have a couple of drone pilots associated with the schools who actually had taken footage of the build site before the clearing began. And they've since gone out and taken some drone footage of the cleared site. So we have some baseline photos to work from. But it's really a great opportunity to get those students involved, but also create opportunities for staff to start working together cross-discipline. So this particular activity is really kind of unique in many different ways. And hopefully we'll be able to really kick this one off as soon as we get back to school. The last one here is, the idea behind it is construction is likely to figure into the career pathway system, into one of our academies for the new school. And as we all know, apprenticeships are a really big piece of construction. And so we want to make sure that we are integrating aspects of preparing for apprenticeships into the high school curriculum. So we just like a little advisory committee to talk to teachers about what that looks like. There's many different examples of pre-apprenticeship curriculum and training out there that we can integrate in, but we just want to use this opportunity to be very deliberate about that process. And so here on this page, this is just a quick table of when these things might begin. You know, in the interest of full disclosure, this was done before COVID, and who knows what's going to happen. We'll just have to play it by ear. What I would like to point out here, though, is the last column on the right, which is information I received from Kraus Anderson folks with the schedule of work. So we'll be able to use this schedule to think about the progression of those site tours, to think about when it makes sense to plug in that student communication group, so they're documenting all the different phases of construction. So it's really handy information to have. The suggested grade levels you see there again are up for discussion. In the research I've done on these activities, these are the suggested grade levels, but there again, we'll be working with teachers and administration to really figure out what makes the most sense where. And it may change over time too. This I'm kind of thinking of this as a kind of a pilot opportunity to try some of these things out. And that's pretty much the bulk of the plan. I threw an appendix in there because I'm nothing if not presenting complicated, compelling data. And so I mentioned some of these things already about why, as a pathway, from a pathway perspective, this is a great opportunity. But this kind of information is also the information we want to share with students and make sure that teachers understand and our community understands, because this really is a very important industry to our region, not just to our region, but to the state, to the country. And there will only be more opportunities to come. Like most industries, it's got an aging workforce, and there's really concern for where that next set of replacement workers is going to come from. And so it's data like this that we'll be able to use to create pathway documents in all of our pathways to better educate students and parents in the community and teachers about where those career opportunities are. So that's the plan in a nutshell. I'm very excited to be working on this. I've got a family history in construction, and so I'm really excited to bring those things together and to try out some things and really create opportunities that are easy for professionals to participate, but bring value to not only teachers, but experienced students.
This is Patrick Gallagher from Kraus Anderson. Just want to say, working with Michelle, this is awesome. Yeah, we normally on the construction side take the initiative to get with individual teachers and try to work something out where we can work the students and into the construction process and to get them excited about it and teach them some things. To have somebody committed to this by your school district here is pretty, well, first of all, unique. And second of all, it's great because I think we missed that opportunity a lot on past schools that we've done just because everyone's busy and they have their curriculum and it's difficult to put us, insert us into that. But to have this up front that we are working with Michelle and she can coordinate and she's a member of the school district, we're going to give you all kinds of opportunities for these students. And Michelle is just the right person to have on this. So I appreciate you having on board, Michelle, and look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Pat.
I just wanted to say I'm super happy that you participated in our meeting today. I mean, this stuff really excites me. I'm very excited about it and everything that you're presenting. I definitely think you're an asset to this whole project, to the school district. I can't wait. I'm very excited. Thank you again for participating today.
Thanks, Brandon.
By the looks of this first document, we sure did get a gem with you, and I can't wait to see how this thing develops and grows.
And again, this isn't about making kids decide on what their career is going to be for their lifetime. This is exposing kids to the career options that are out there. Because right now they just look at doctors, nurses, dentists, the people they see every day as careers. And like Michelle was mentioning, there are so many different avenues in different career fields for kids to go, and explore. And this is exciting times. I'm so happy. Thank you.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited too. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yes,
Okay,
I'll just echo what everybody else said. Thanks for everything, Michelle. I'm really impressed with how you, get put in this job that it's never even really existed before, and you just hit the ground running, and you put this plan together. And I didn't even realize. I mean, I've lived in Virginia for about 15 years now, and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, look at all these job opportunities that our kids are going to have right in our own backyard, and they're going to get firsthand experience to see what their opportunities are. They are not going to have to go any further than a couple of miles down the road to see, what their potential is living in the area. And I think, man, that's so cool. That's kind of what this is all about. So thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks for all of that.
Thanks. Could I just leave you with one final thought on that, Stacy? And I think that this might be something that surprises most people.
Yes.
In the research I did to prepare for this position, I needed to look at what our business base looked like here, because a lot that's our scope. That's the playground that we have to work with here. And there are over 3,500 businesses within 30 miles of Virginia. 3,500.
I was just going to ask you to repeat that number again. That's
3,500.
Wow.
There are over 1,200 of those businesses employ 5 people or more. We've got a lot of sole proprietorships, a lot of entrepreneurs, that sort of thing. It is so heartening and so encouraging, and these are things that most people don't think about. If you've never had to stop and think about what that business base looks like, you would have no idea. And so that is a number that just please remember that. And if anybody tells you we don't have enough employers or mining is the only game in town, send them my way and I'll give them an education.
Thank you, Michelle, very much. Looking at the next agenda item we have is to approve the builder's risk insurance quote.
This is, Spencer's gonna go through this with you, Madam Chair.
Hello, everybody, again. In your packet, you have some information. We received bids from the Cincinnati Insurance Company and EMC Insurance Company. As you can see on those, I would recommend that we go with EMC, the ones that were highlighted in yellow. It's $25,000 deductible, but both of them come in under or just about at budget, what we had for our budget for this line item for the construction. There'd be two separate. There'd be one for the elementary project and then another premium for the high school project.
Are we talking insurance?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, this is for the builder's insurance as we're constructing the two buildings.
And did you say that went out for bids?
Yes, we contacted, there's 15 companies that were contacted to get insurance, and only 2 of them bid on the insurance.
Okay. And EMC is through who?
EMC, it's a national company. We go through Jamie Linseth is the one who is our agent. He contacted them and got the quote from them. EMC is actually who also has both school districts' current property and liability insurance.
Okay.
I would move that we accept the low quote as recommended
I've got a
on
motion.
for both premium, for both policies.
Okay, we've got a motion. Do I have support?
I will support.
Thank you. So we've got a motion by Director Schoberg and support by Director Lotiger. Any
Correct.
further discussion?
Yeah, just one question. So it looks like there were 5 different bid packages that we received from EMC. Is that correct, Spencer?
Yes, they gave some options on different deductible levels and some that had different coverages. So this one actually had the best coverage. It had a little bit higher deductible, but it was within our budget.
Okay, thank you.
It's national, but like you said, Spencer, it's local. Our insurance agent is local, and we've both been working with that local person too.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed with a roll call vote. Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sather?
Aye.
Director Lotiger?
Aye.
Director Reardon?
Yes. Aye.
Director Schoberg?
Yes.
And Director Sundquist is also an aye. All of those in support, motion passes. Agenda item F is to discuss process for raising funds for upgrades in the new school.
Members of the joint board, that would be myself. So I briefly mentioned something about this at the last meeting. Just want to give the joint board a brief update. We have met with the advisory team of the elementary and the high school, and we have started making a list of potential items that might be targets for fundraising. We are in the process of trying to prioritize them because some might be more important than others. And we also want to include with you, we kind of want to slow down just a little bit, which is why I'm not bringing you a whole much more this time, because we also want to see where the bid packs come in. Because what we're looking at suggesting to the joint powers and ultimately the both boards for Rock Ridge starting on July 1st would be additional items beyond what you normally put in construction packages, beyond what normally you might build and put in. There might be some things that we want to fundraise some things for. So for example, in some districts, they may say, hey, anybody want to put a name on their football stadium? Anybody want to put their name on a classroom? Anybody want to put their name on a scoreboard? Things like that. In Alexandria, of those who saw it, they had a wall of donors that, hey, if you want to put your name on a wall, we'll accept donations for that. So I just want to keep the joint board, so you know, we're still talking about this behind the scenes. I'm hoping to bring this to full boards for discussion as far as the process goes, because someone will have to be in charge of this. Someone will have to run it, or a group of people or several people will have to run it to keep things going, and as far as how we contact potential donors and what the specific things are. So at this point, it's more of an FYI to the joint board, but I will stop and take any questions that anyone may have at this point in time.
Looks like you're off the hook.
All right, so there's my update to the joint board.
Thank you, Noel. Next on the agenda is item G, discussion on iPad integration, and I know that must be the reason why Bill Bryson is here to talk about it.
That's right. Hey, thanks for having me, everybody. We just wanted to keep the joint board apprised of kind of the direction that we're looking to move with the Rockridge School District and student devices and staff devices. This was kind of brought up at the last board meetings, individual board meetings for Virginia and for Eveleth Gilbert. And basically the plan involves selling off our current fleets of iPads that we currently have in student hands. They were all purchased back in 2017, and we expect those to come end of life prior to moving into the new school district. And as we move into the new, before we move into the new schools, forgive me, and as we come together this summer as the Rockridge School District, there's a lot of maintenance that has to happen to merge our iPad management system together. And so we thought it might be a good idea at this time to refresh our student fleet, start off with new iPads next fall, so every kid in the new district has a new device to work with. Every kid in the new district has the same device to work with. And the reason why we like doing this is that from a staff development standpoint, from a teaching standpoint, and staff collaboration standpoint, it's really helpful for them to be on the same platform when they're designing lessons, when they're working together as groups at grade level teams. So when they're creating content, they know they have to create it for one device, and that really makes it easy when they're setting up their lessons. Coupled with that, we're also looking at outfitting all of our staff with new devices as well. The Eveleth Gilbert teachers have been using Windows-based laptops, and it's talking with Jason Ness. They've been going through some hardware replacements for those that they've had to work on, and he recommended that we look at potentially refreshing those devices. That would really help get the teachers up to speed. The Virginia staff have been using laptops that are from 2012, 2013, and they're definitely due for a refresh at this time. Similarly to the student iPads, by setting up staff with all the same device moving forward, that also helps lead to staff collaboration, being able to create content the same across the board. And we really hope that we can, by doing so, our teachers can really work together to create content, especially in this new vision we have for how we're going to be teaching and learning with students. This will really help move that ball forward. So the time frame of things, we'll be looking at rolling out these new devices this next fall. And then after 3 years, we would refresh the student iPads again in preparation for moving into the new school, the new Rockridge High School. We currently sit on about a 3-year refresh cycle with student iPads, and so that kind of lines up nicely there. We expect to run our staff laptops for 6 to 8 years to kind of run those out there at that time frame. The nice thing about this is we are going to be getting some COVID relief funding from the state that will help pay for some of this. The lease agreements that we've currently received from Apple, we asked them to put in a first-year lease payment of $500,000, which we will be getting that funding from the state for COVID relief. That's the projected funding that we're supposed to be getting in for that. And then the following 2 years would be about $250,000. And selling back our current fleet of iPads, we're expecting to get somewhere in the range of $280,000 to $350,000 back for our current fleet. So that will cover the second year's payment of iPads, the lease, leaving just one lease payment left for about $250,000. So essentially, we're getting about $1 million worth of brand new laptops for every teacher and brand new iPads for every student K through 12 for about $250,000. Which is a pretty good deal. The other thing too is we've been working off of a lease. Both the Virginia School District and the Eveleth Gilbert School District have had leases with Apple that have come to an end this spring. So we're done with those leases. If we look at the costs of that we've been paying traditionally on those leases combined, it's about $12,000 less than the third year lease payment on this. So it's not really a stretch of what we've been paying. The other big difference is this will be the first time we've been outfitting kids K through 12. Virginia has been providing a 1-to-1 off of our lease for grades 2 through 12, and Eveleth Gilbert has been doing 1 through 12. So this will be the first time that we've been able to provide a device for every student in our school system. I think it'll be a really great way to start off this new venture as the Rockridge School District. We'll be able to provide a lot more targeted training for our staff, and it'll be a lot easier for our staff to work together. And I know this is just, I just wanted to keep you guys apprised and see if there's any questions that any of you had about any of this. I think it'll be talked again about at the Eveleth Gilbert board meeting next week. We are in a little bit of a tight time frame on the selling of our current fleet. The later we wait into the summer, the less those devices are worth. So our buyback is kind of time contingent on getting that done as soon as possible. But I'll kind of open things up for questions now if anybody has any.
Sounds like a great deal to me.
Yeah, it's we're really impressed with seeing Apple's giving us some amazing lease agreements that are really, I mean, it's basically pretty much costs. And so being able to couple that in with the COVID relief money and then the buyback that we're getting, I was really impressed with the numbers that we're seeing come in with the buyback right now for our current fleets. So, yeah.
Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Any other questions?
Doesn't sound like it. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Hey, thanks for your time.
Agenda item H is regarding the utilities at the new high school and elementary.
Madam Chair, I'll take a stab at this one. At the last joint board meeting, the topic came up of utilities, and Noel and I were instructed to meet with the Virginia PUC and Minnesota Energy and Minnesota Power. We did meet with Virginia PUC. Earlier, MERC, Minnesota Energy Resources, had provided some numbers for basically a 7-month example of what they might charge us for natural gas at the high school. And Virginia PUC saw this, and the spreadsheet that's up on the board, up on your screen right now, illustrates Virginia's response to that, and it's about $2,300 cheaper than MERC's estimate. And granted, these are estimates, but just so you guys understand where they are. The other thing and we did meet with MERC as well, and I'll get to that in a second. But the moral of the story is what we learned is that within city corporate limits, if the city utility has utility rights, unless they grant a lease to an outside company, they have that right. So, and when we talked to MERC, she did concede that is in fact true. They could go through the court system to try to provide services, but neither side was interested in that. So the bottom line is this is a pretty good estimate of what we may pay in for natural gas service at the new high school from the Virginia PUC. We have not discussed electric yet at this point, but that will also very likely be Virginia PUC as that same city corporate limits applies there as well. Any questions for myself or Noel on that?
Yeah, just a comment. I guess I'm a little disappointed that, granted, there are franchise rights, and I think everyone understood that from the start, but I'm a little disappointed that we weren't able to get apples to apples comparisons from the different utility providers, just to show that, and it's not just for the short term, but that to be assured that that the school was going to get good value for its utility dollars. That's it, and I get it.
Thanks, Matt. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Director Sather. Are we just looking at the high school right now?
Yes, just so everyone understands, the high school is in Virginia's corporate limits. The elementary obviously is in Eveleth. Eveleth is going to provide water and sewer to both buildings, as they have the infrastructure in place now. And Eveleth, the city of Eveleth does not provide electric and gas, so that will be Merck and Minnesota Power at the elementary and the stadium, which is also in Eveleth city limits. But the Virginia High School will be Virginia PUC for gas and electric, and then the city of Eveleth will do water and sewer and garbage.
I was just going to ask, do we have a different, you said you didn't look at electric, so we don't have a comparison of what Virginia Public Utilities would be compared to Minnesota Power?
I think they're working on that, and we will certainly send that your way when we get it.
Okay. I mean, more so for, I mean, obviously it sounds like our hands are tied with the high school. It is what it is, but just looking at the elementary too and making sure that we're able to see the difference.
Sure.
Are there any, one thing that came up in the last meeting too, are there any rebates or anything like that that would be able to be offered through Virginia Public Utilities? I know we were talking about that, comparing it with Minnesota Energy and not knowing if Public Utilities offers any rebates and things like that.
Noel can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I gathered out of the meeting, we will get some rebates for the gas. They aren't a large enough provider to, such as Merck is, but they felt pretty confident that they could. They were going to match the electric rebates as we would get for power.
Yes, Jeff is accurately stating the conversation that took place.
Yeah, the one thing, this is Tim Reardon, the one thing with the a match on the conservation improvement rebates, Virginia with the changeover with the steam conversion may be mandated to, if their volume is high enough, to give us those rebates, and if they're not, they probably will be able to give us what the rebate would be if they were mandated.
Any other questions? Thank you, Madam Chair.
So, and now we have, we will be proceeding into a closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 3B to have discussions with the joint board legal counsel related to litigation in the case of ERAT to the ISD 706 et al. Court file number 69BI-CV-20-236. Since we will be discussing legal and ongoing litigation, it will be a closed session, and I will seek direction from either one of our superintendents as to how we're going to proceed to that. I think we've got another Zoom meeting to enter for board members only.
You are correct. You should have got email with a separate link in. You'll have to close out of this meeting or leave this meeting and then get into the other meeting. And then we'll come back to this meeting for the final item.
Okay.
Stacy, can you send that to me then?
Yes, I will send it to you right now, Tim, and so we can close out of this one, and then I'll again invite the board members to get to that special session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will come out of them.
And somebody is staying, sorry.
Can we convene in like 5 minutes? in the closed session?
Sure. Yep.
And someone's staying in this meeting so we can come back, correct?
I would.
Lotigers. Someone will keep this one open until we come back, the joint board comes back into the session. Yes.
Thank you, Noel. So we'll take 5 minutes in case anyone needs to get some water or something, and then we'll go to the closed session. Thank you. It's about 9:05, and I'm looking for a motion to introduce the resolution, which was based on topics discussed in closed session.
So moved.
So moved by Director Anderson, support.
Support by Director Sather.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Director Sather,
Aye.
Director Reardon,
Aye.
Director Anderson,
Aye.
Director Lotiger,
Aye.
Director Schoberg,
Aye.
and Director Sundquist is an aye. Motion passes. I believe the last item on the agenda is to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.